Welcome to Transition Virtual Meet Open House. First, I would like to introduce the two teachers who are working face-to-face in the classroom with the children. Miss Neeta. Miss Neeta has worked at Sugar Creek for the last 5.5 years, and all the 5.5 years she's been in transition. During this pandemic time, her timing in transition is 11:30 to 6 p.m. Miss Bijal. Miss Bijal has worked at Sugar Creek Montessori for the last 8.5 years. And she has been working with the pre-primary students. This year, due to the pandemic, she's working in transition. Her timing is from 7 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. I'm Shoba Ravishankar. I have worked at Sugar Creek for the last 17 years. 12 years I have been in transition. Today, I'm going to be talking about the curriculum of the transition class. There are 4 main areas of learning in Montessori. One is practical life, sensorial education, language, and math. Science and geography falls under language. And of course, we do have the co-curriculum classes. Practical life. Practical life indirectly prepares the child to develop a joy for future learning. Directly aids the child to grow in independence and social skills, to develop eye-hand coordination, and also develops the large and fine motor skills, and of course, concentration. Here, practical life is divided into 4 different categories. They are preliminary application, applied application, and care and courtesy, and also control of movement. So first, let's see what is preliminary application. Very simple. The child has to learn how to carry a mat, carry a chair, a tray, sharp objects, learn how to close and open objects, and also boxes and doors, spooning, pouring. Here I'm going to be showing a few pictures of children actually working in the classroom. This is one of the kids in the past working with open and close. See how the child has laid out his work in a very orderly manner. He's working from left to right. And his friend is observing the work. These girls are working with their fine motor skills. You can see the girl holding the tweezer. And this is also part of practical life. This helps them to develop the concentration and also movement. Here, you can see the student is trying to squeeze water. This is one of the practical life that he is doing. And he's developing his fine motor skills and also concentration. And his friend is standing and looking. That means she is also observing it. Here the student is doing spooning. Again, his motor skills, his fine motor skills are getting very refined, and his concentration. Here the child is learning how to do pouring. Yes, she has spilled some things down. She also learns how to clean up her environment. That's part of the practical skills. Here you have the whole setup of the practical life area in the classroom, and most of these kids are doing water activities. And you can see how much fun they are having. The purpose of pouring. The direct purpose of pouring is the child develops the skill of pouring. Indirect purpose is preparation of the fine motor skills. Applied exercises. The next is care of self and the care of the environment. Care of self is washing hands, taking care of yourself, meaning you need to know how to do your buttoning, your buckling, zipping, and we do have framework for all this. The child practices on that. And care of the environment. You saw the other child, how she was picking up the rice while she was pouring, and she's trying to learn to take care of the environment. Dusting the table is one of the activities that they do. Polishing the wood, polishing the mirror, arrangement of flowers, setting up the table. These are a few things that they do to take care of their environment. Here I have a picture of the child learning to wash his hands, and also he's learning to clean the sink. Grace and courtesy. We teach the child how to introduce themselves, how to greet someone, saying please and thank you, excuse me, offering help, yawning and coughing. Control of movement, very important for this age group. How to walk on the line and the silence game. Like I'm going to show you a picture. Here, the children are all sitting on the line. So all our activities takes place around this line. The lesson is presented around the line. The children are requested to sit on the line. Here, they learn the discipline of sitting quietly and listening. Walking on the line. What is the purpose? The direct purpose is helps a child to concentrate and the coordination of movement. Indirect purpose, awareness of their body and building up the balance. Through the activities of practical life, what does a child learn? Child develops a skill of orderliness, control of movement, and the ability to concentrate. It also prepares them for writing. Sensorial education. Development of senses, indirect preparation for writing and reading, indirect preparation for math. Under sensorial, children are going to learn to develop their senses. How? Through visual awareness, through audio, smell, touch, and taste. Now the visual awareness. Under visual awareness, through his senses, what does the child learn? The child studies the environment and then begins to understand his environment. So let's first take the visual awareness. What are the lessons that the child learned in visual awareness? I have a few of them here, which is through brown stairs, pink tower, red rods, knob cylinders, and color tablets. Here, you will see the child working with brown stairs. Here, you would see the child working with pink tower. These are the knob cylinders. So if you see these knob cylinders, you will see that their height is different and the dimension is different. Here, when the child is working with the different type of knob cylinders, the height is different, but the dimension is the same in all the 10 knob cylinders. Here, the height is the same and the dimension is different. And this is the geometric solids. Now, what is the purpose of the visual awareness work? It brings about the visual discrimination of dimensions. The child learns motor coordination and concentration and prepares them for math. Next is the auditory senses, sound cylinders. So we have these sound cylinders. This is for the lesson 1 that they get in transition. They have the red and the yellow cylinders and they have noisemakers inside. And the child has to match the red with the blue cylinder. And it starts from the loudest to the very soft cylinder sounds. This is a smelling jars. It's similar to the sound, but it's just a smell. They would have to match the smell smelling jars with the red and the green jars. Tactile senses. Here we have the rectangular boards and different fabrics. Of course, we have different other words, but here today I'm going to just display the two of them. The rectangular boards. The child has to differentiate between rough and smooth. Different fabric. The next would be the child has different kinds of fabrics, and the child has to match the fabric with their eyes, with a blindfold on them. With a blindfold on them. And that is how they would touch and feel the texture of the fabric and match them. This is for the tactile senses. Now the sensorial education. What is the purpose? It is indirectly preparing them for writing and reading. They are holding all their things with 3-finger grip. The work starts from left to right, and they also practice drawing with a metal insets. Indirect preparation for math. Sets of 10. Each work, when you see the brown stairs, the pink towers, the red rods, they come in sets of 10. They try to recognize the dimensions, the recognition of the geometric solids. Now comes language. Enrichment of vocabulary, language training, recognition of letters. How do we do the enrichment of vocabulary? We have vegetable baskets, we have fruit baskets, we have wild animals, farm animals, birds, insects, sea animals, transportation, things that go together, opposites, rhyming words, sequencing, community helpers, mystery bag, object baskets, things around your home, things around the classroom. These are all the work that is there on the shelf. I'm going to show a few pictures where children are actually working with this. Here you see the child working with the wild animals, picture to object, and how she has laid out her work from the left to the right. Here the child is learning the names of the fruits. Again, the child has laid out his work from left to right. Here the child is learning about transportation, the means of transportation. This is picture to picture. He has to match it. Then the other kid here is doing transportation, but he has picture to object. This child is doing patterning. If you see ladybug, bumblebee, ladybug, bumblebee. So this is how she learns patterning and also learns the vocabulary words. Here, the child is trying to put the puzzle, things that go together. For example, you might have a vase and a flower and they both go together. So she's trying to match it. So this child is going from top to bottom. The child is doing large and small. Again, she has laid out her work from left to right. Now, how do we do language training? We do language training telling stories during our story time. So one day we do storytelling. Another day we might read a book. And then we do sing a lot of rhymes and songs. Of course, in the morning, during the line time, we do the months and the days of the week, and also do the past, present, and future tense during the calendar time, which is in the morning line time. Language recognition. Here, the child has the sandpaper letters and objects that go with those letters. The child learns the beginning sound of the letters. They also trace the letters on sand and have metal insets to practice for their handwriting. Here is the sandpaper letter T, and the child is matching it with the objects. Here the child has a letter L, and she's matching it with those objects that go with letter L. Enrichment of vocabulary, language training, recognition of sandpaper letters are preparation for reading. Science goes with the language, so when you go into the class, you will see science to the right end corner, to your right end of the corner on the shelf, and you will see words such as living and non-living, magnetic, non-magnetic, sink and float, land, air and water, parts of the flower, tree, frog, birds and insects, parts of the human body, food groups, exploring the five senses. Now, we don't display all this work at the same time. Every month we bring in new work, so the child slowly does the progression. And all these topics create a foundation for the science. So they'll be given the beginning initial lessons on all these things. You will see some pictures, children doing these work. Here you have land, water and air. Those bottles have water, air and some sand in it. Here the child is doing magnetic and non-magnetic work. This is land animals and water animals. This is parts of the frog in a puzzle. This is parts of the flower in a puzzle. This is for science. Math. Children learn to recognize, recite, and eventually to write the numerals 1 through 10 and associate those numbers with appropriate quantities. In math, the Montessori work would be number rods, that is red and the blue rods, sandpaper numbers, spindle box, cards and counters, concepts of zero and concepts of length and width using sensorial material. Names of the shapes and geometric awareness using the geometric solids, which we already saw in sensorial work. This is a child. So when she first started, she started doing the red and blue rods, and she only did up to 5 rods. And the same child, as she progressed, she started getting the 10 rods. So if you see, there'll be 10 rods from 1 to 10. And this is how the child learns to do the work in a very orderly fashion, and see how she has laid out her work. The child here is doing the spindle box. The spindle box starts from 0 to 9, and you would have to do the quantity for it. Again, the child is doing the numbers, laying out the numbers in order, and then putting the quantity to it. This child has laid out his work, so his process is right, the way he has laid out. His numbering, sequencing, it may not be right, but eventually he will get it. Here the child has laid out her numbers 0 to 9, and she's also putting the quantity on it. And the teacher is sitting next to her and watching to see how she's doing the work. Geography. In geography, we have the visual introduction of the globe. We do the naming of the continents, naming the ocean, passage of time, day, week, month, year, seasons, using the calendar. We do the solar system, we name the planets. We also study about other cultures, events, and famous people. Co-curricular activities, music, PE, and art. I do have a few pictures on it. This is our PE class. which sometimes happens in our playground outside or in the gym, depends upon the weather. This is our music class. Like I said, everything happens in the line inside the classroom. You can see how children are all standing on the line and doing their music. Conclusion. In a Montessori work, the process is more important than the product. So first, we teach the kids how to bring the mat, how to lay out the work. And then the product of that work would come in the end once they know how to do this process. And all the work begins from left to right. And there is always a 3-period lesson. So what is a 3-period lesson? So when I have to present a lesson, the first lesson I give them, if I have an apple in my hand, I say, this is apple. Then I ask them, where is an apple? And my third lesson will be, what is this? So this is how the lesson is presented to the child on the rug. Now the whole curriculum prepares the child not for school, but for life, with self-esteem, confidence, and independence. Thank you.